This is the Wally and Methot Show. Now here are your hosts, Brent Wallace and Mark Methot.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Brent Wallace. He's Mark Methot, the stay-at-home defenseman. Yes, that's right. Meth has been quarantining well before there was any mention of the term pandemic. All right, Meth, now before we get into the show, I think you have some explaining to do. You see, on the last show with Mark Stone, you brought up perhaps that you weren't necessarily fond of old people, or that you, well, called them liars. Here's the clip.
Exactly. And they lie. The older ladies and men, they're sometimes liars.
And they lie. They're sometimes liars.
Come on. You can't put that me on. You're going to alienate half our fan base out of Ottawa, and they're all going to hate me. Look, Craig was playing around with some clips, took something out of context. And in fact, I don't even remember why I said that. If I could go back and take it out, I probably would, but here we are.
I've been doing an awful lot of apologizing on your behalf the past few days. So anyway, you owe me like a dinner and probably every elderly person a trip to Denny's.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. Let's just move on before we get ourselves in more trouble with the elderly generation. And that is our big show today. We have Mark Borowiecki stopping by, the 10-year NHL veteran, former Ottawa Senator, and now current member of the Nashville Predators. And of course, we've got Trivial Trivia. And once again, back in the show, presented by GONGSHOW.com, as we have another sauce off kit to give away at the end of the show. So make sure you pay attention to the interview, as we always like to drop in a clue from that as the question. All right, let's get on to the headlines, shall we? Number one, Tkachucking knuckles. Meth, what did you think of Brady Tkachuk's fight with Shea Weber on Saturday night? Thomas the Train. What is happening with Thomas Chabot's game? Is the Sens engine struggling at the moment? Daddy, we lost power. Evgenii Dadonov off the first power play unit, down to the fourth line, but has a pair of goals. Ovi versus Sid. Brandon Dubinsky reignites the debate over who's better. And central figures. How will the top four finish in the Central Division as we continue our look through the rest of the NHL? Okay, Matt, let's go. Tkachucking knuckles. Brady Tkachuk, early in that game, drops the mitts with Shea Weber, the Montreal Canadiens captain. And right afterwards, you sent out a tweet that said, I'll repeat myself again. Almost nobody is going to want to go near Brady Tkachuk in a year or two. Good for him. Is this all about making space for number 7?
I believe it is. And I love what he did in Saturday night's game against Montreal there with Shea Weber. In Weber, you got a fantastic D-man. There's nothing against him. For all we know, he was at the end of his shift and maybe a little tired, but he's still a 230-pound man who's played in the league for a long time. So what Brady was able to do there, and it wasn't just a hang-on fight kind of thing and wrestle to the ground. He threw some punches. He handled himself very well. So this is all part of what Brady's doing. He's creating this player in himself that will be a force to be reckoned with. And obviously he's already there, in my opinion, but it sometimes takes a little bit of a while for the rest of the league to catch up and realize who they're playing against on any given night when they're on the ice against Brady. So he's creating space for himself, a level of respect that defensemen will have to have for him. And it's only going to benefit everybody, that he's playing with on the ice at any given point. It creates space for his line mates around the front of the net. So I love what he did. It was fantastic. He's playing with emotion and he's pulling the team up with him.
Okay, so as a defenseman, you're supposed to hack and whack guys in front of the net. And Shea's taking a couple of shots afterwards, cross checks, if you will, on Brady, which happens all the time. That's not my point. My point is that as a forward, you need to respond to that? Or is he waiting to see, as Weber, is he waiting to see what's going to transpire here? Is he thinking he's going to get away with that? Or is he expecting there to be a fight?
I think, usually, and I can speak from my own experiences at net front, because I played very similar around the net front. And a lot of the time you think you're going to get away with it. And you don't expect a forward significantly smaller. I shouldn't say significantly smaller. Brady's not exactly a little guy.
I think there's 10 pounds difference based on.
Yeah. Brady's sneaky, strong and big too. I think it's more just Weber's stature that makes him kind of look that much larger. But yeah, most of the time when you're taking a couple liberties on a guy, because you're trying to impose your will and, you don't want them getting comfortable around net front. And I don't think Weber expected that. And again, that leads me back to my original point. This is the response you're going to get now from Brady. And he's instilling that in all the defenseman mindset when we're battling with a guy like him at net front. So now, at the back of your mind, if you're the D-man, you think, okay, if I give him that extra shot or I try boxing him out, there's a good chance he's going to call my bluff and want to fight me. And that has a mental play in effect there when you're the defenseman at net front.
Interesting. All right, let's move on to an Ottawa Senator defenseman, and that's Thomas Chabot. So I guess on Saturday night, he looks pretty good. He only plays 23 minutes, but that hasn't been the norm. And we've all talked about how he's played too much hockey. So what do you assess his game at with the way he's played? And I'll say over 28 minutes a night.
Yeah, well, I think prior to Saturday night's game against Montreal, the 6 or 7 games prior, he was averaging over 30 something minutes. Wally, yeah. I know you have the numbers there, but I mean, to me, that's too much. I think most people will agree with me. I say most, that if you're averaging 30 minutes a night consecutively in games, that's insane. I mean, you're gonna wear out. You're gonna start making mistakes on the ice, having mental gaps due to fatigue. So you don't want to see an elite guy like Thomas Chabot have his game hindered due to just playing too much and being tired, right? So again, I can understand the coach's perspective. They want to win the game. Their points are reflective of Chabot's ice time. So you know you're going to get a much better production from your team when your star players playing more. But I mean, in the end, you got to taper that back because I think it's hindering his game. It takes away from his skating to a degree. Those mental mistakes that are coming with fatigue later on in games can obviously play a part in this too. So, I mean, he played 23 some odd minutes against Montreal, still had a good stat line. I'm sure you could bump him back up a little further, but keeping him underneath 28 minutes to me is that little sweet spot that's probably more comfortable for the player.
Okay. So here's where the debate comes in, because most people will say they look at him play in the last couple of games. He's made some mental errors that you don't really expect from your number one defenseman. However, and when Thomas Chabot plays 28 or more minutes a night, the Ottawa Senators record this season, 6-1-3. So when DJ Smith says, I need him out there to win hockey games and play a whole lot, he looks like he's actually knows what he's talking about based on the numbers.
Oh, for sure. And I'm giving him full marks for that. You're obviously going to have a better chance to win or at least get a tie and get some points if your star player, he is their most valuable player. We've already had this debate in the past, but I'm standing by that. When your most valuable player is playing half the game, of course, you're going to give yourself the best opportunity to win. And I can understand the coach's perspective there, but that doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. I mean, when your blue line is as thin as it is on that second and third pairing, for the most part, naturally, you're going to want to play your stud as much as you possibly can. But again, you're risking injury. He may create some bad habits that might creep into his game for some long-term effect, right? I mean, you start getting a little lethargic when you're playing tired. You don't want that to carry on into his, into next season, of course, or becoming a habit here in this last stretch of games. So for me, I still think you can play Thomas Chabot less than 30 minutes a night and give your team the best chance to win a game.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move on then to Daddy We Lost Power, but I'd like to rename it Dancing Bears because of Artem Anisimov and Evgenii Dadonov. Now, Dadonov goes from being on the top power play unit, in fact, playing the most power play minutes of any Ottawa Senator this season, to being taken off the top unit. He then goes to the fourth line, and all he does with Artem Anisimov and Alex Formenton is score 2 goals. Anisimov has 3 assists. Formenton has a goal. So can you explain Evgenii Dadonov to me, the guy that has 0 power play goals this season, who's the Sens' highest paid forward? What are we getting in him?
I don't know. Normally I have a pretty quick-witted answer, but right now, to me, I think I'm like most people in that I had high hopes for him this year, just based off his numbers. Now, he played with Huberdeau, he played with Barkov, 2 legitimate all-stars. That might have something to do with his point production over the past few years. However, you still think that he's going to come in here and do some damage on the PP for the team and be an improvement. And it hasn't worked out. So, Saturday night against Montreal, that's a good game. I loved his stat line. I loved how he rebounded after being demoted off that first unit. It's in many cases with a lot of players, sometimes they'll pout. They won't be happy. They may not follow up with a good game. But Daddy comes back into the lineup here and has a fantastic game. And he had some really good chemistry with Anisimov and Formenton, and they played really well. Formanton's a fantastic skater, so I find he just complements the other two fellas really well as far as opening up the ice and creating a lot of space with his speed. So Dadonov had a great game. I just hope it's not a one-off. It'd be nice to see him have a couple more. He can string together some solid play in this last stretch, and it instills confidence back into the organization that they made the right play by signing him.
Okay, so he has 11 goals in the season. I think he's one off the team lead, which is really weird because it doesn't seem like he's done a whole lot of anything throughout the season. It's very quiet, 11 goals. But is it a great game if you come in and play 12 some minutes on the fourth line? Yes, you got a pair of goals, but I don't notice him. I want him to do something for us.
And he's never going to be your type of player that's just going to physically take over a game. I mean, the guy's very small. Yeah. He's electric. He's got some dynamic play in him that he's able to do around the net, and he's very quick with the puck, and he's got some nice little turn-ups and stuff like that. But he's not going to be that guy that you watch and dominates all over the ice. So you need him. He's the kind of guy at the end of the night that you look at the stat sheet and he's got a bunch of points. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a lot of assists right now. He's not really a disher, but he's the kind of guy at the end of the night, you want to take a look at the stat sheet and go, okay, he was effective. He contributed. He's got some points here. If he can do that on the fourth line with 13 minutes of ice, he had a couple blocks as well. Great. Then you get your money's worth out of him. I still think he's making maybe a little more than we would like for the type of player that we're getting right now. But I mean, at this point, you got to look at the silver lining, and he had a good game the other night against Montreal. So let's just hope he can keep this momentum up and get the production going a little bit more.
The always ever positive Mark Methot. Okay.
Trying to be positive. I'm trying.
Let's move on to Ovi versus Sid, which has been an ongoing debate ever since they came into the league. Who's better? But for some reason, everybody's all up in arms over this now again, because Brandon Dubinsky, who hasn't played in the league in a couple of years, he was on a podcast and said basically Alex Ovechkin is better than Crosby. And then he tweeted later, listen, Crosby's better than me. I never said he wasn't. He's obviously one of the best ever. If it was Ovi versus Sid, none of you played in the NHL. And I know how hard it is to score goals in the NHL. 724 is insane. Sid just whined way too much and Ovi just shut up and played hard. All right. So the debate is who's better. I'm not sure that you can really debate that. Based on all the accolades. But let me just ask you then, who would you pick if you had to build a hockey team right now and they're in their prime or they're being drafted first, second? Who do you take?
Okay, well, let's just start by me. I would rather like to start by just saying, let's just all be thankful that we're able to watch. And in my case, I was able to play with two generational players that are completely different in many respects, right? If I'm building a team, of course, I'm going to go with Sid because for me, with Sidney Crosby, he makes everybody else around him better. That's not to say Ovi doesn't do that, but Sidney can play with just about anybody and make careers for them. We've seen that. He
hasn't had any wingers.
Exactly. He's
Pascal Dupuis, Brian Rust, like no disrespect, but he's got no one ever to play on with his wings.
Well, he doesn't have a Backstrom, saucing the puck 50 feet across the ice to him right on his tape. And I'm not saying that that's the case only with Ovi. Obviously, he's an incredible player. It's a Hall of Fame career. Yeah. But if we have to pick between the two, I'm going to go with Sidney only because of that reason. He's not just scoring goals. He's a great leader. He's able to pull wingers that we've never heard of on his back and create excellent careers for those players. So, to me, the most incredible part of this conversation that a lot of people don't realize is these two guys into their incredibly long careers are only 10 points apart from each other. Like, to me, that blows my mind. And one's a goal scorer, the other's a disher for the most part. So that stat alone is pretty wild. But again, if I'm building a team, I'm going to go with Sid. It's a no-brainer. I love Ovi. I hate saying that I wouldn't want a 700-plus goal scorer on my team. But Sidney's just that guy, and he's got the accolades to back it.
And it's true. Like, Crosby's point per game compared to Ovi's 1.28 and Ovi it's 1.10. So exactly. I mean, their career, right? They're very similar point totals, but I think Sidney Crosby brings a whole different element. However, is Alex Ovechkin the best goal scorer in the history of the game?
I've already said this. Yes, I think he is. I don't care who you are. I mean, obviously Wayne's in the conversation.
Sure.
But I mean, as far as a natural goal scorer goes, come on. In modern day NHL, what Ovi's been able to do is it's lights out. It's incredible. I mean, I can appreciate how hard it is to score goals. I've had a handful in my career. So to score 700 plus goals to me is insane, especially in modern day hockey, with the way goalies can defend now and cover the net, and everybody's a goaltender on the PK and blocking shots. It's a special skill set that he has, and I don't know that we're going to see that for some time.
And yet 9-time Rocket Richard Trophy winner for leading the league in goals scored. I mean, the numbers are ridiculous. I actually agree with you. I think he is by far the best goal scorer. Now, I didn't watch Gordie Howe play very much or really appreciate perhaps Wayne Gretzky, but when you see the goalies always standing up every time Gretzky's about to score a goal, it's just a whole different world, right? Okay, let's move on to Grand Central. So we've gone through now 2 of the divisions. Stop number 3 is, how are the top 4 in the Central Division going to play out here?
Oh, and it's hard, right? Because I mean, I'm familiar with playing in the Central, well, a modified version of that, but with some of those teams, I'm obviously very familiar with. With Tampa, I know Florida's catching up right now, and they're kind of neck and neck between the Panthers and Tampa Bay, but I still think Tampa, you're the ex-NHL champions. I mean, they're not going anywhere. They're still going to be a force to be reckoned with moving forward. They've got fantastic goaltending, so I don't know that I need to even address that team right now. And then you got Florida and Carolina. Carolina's got a really good stretch here moving forward of home games. Wally, you told me this, and I know that they're playing really well at home. So, I mean, they've got a lock in there. In my opinion, it's just a matter of where they're going to seat by the last game. For me right now, with Nashville sitting at 4, I still like Dallas. I played there. This is not biased. I'm just saying they had a really tough go early on with the Storm, a bunch of canceled games. They've got 4 games at hand right now on the rest of the pack. And I think if there's a team that we can look at for making some noise moving forward, it's probably them. They've been missing Tyler Seguin all year. Ben Bishop's been hurt. Their goaltending has been fantastic despite that for the most part in Anton Hudobin. And they got that Jake Oettinger. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name properly, but another young fella that's come in and doing really well. And I know Bish is on the mend. I believe Ben Bishop will be back soon. So I really like Dallas right now. I think that they can come back and make some noise and perhaps sneak in at the end. And I mean, at that point, we'll have to wait and see. But again, for me, at the top of the totem pole, it's Tampa right now.
Interesting. Well, I hope we're not agreeing on how this is all going to play out, because this isn't any fun whatsoever. So
I know, but I like Dallas is my wild card, though. A lot of people are writing them off. I think that they're going to. They
have like 4 games in hand. Yeah,
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with okay. So I'm going to go Tampa, Carolina, because they've got 12 home games remaining, as you brought up.
I agree with you there. Yeah.
And I think Florida goes to 3. Now it's either Nashville or Dallas. Dallas, that's an interesting one, but I think Nashville has started to finally find its game. They're playing really well of late. I'm going to go with Nashville gets in at number 4, and also with Mark Borowiecki being on the show in just a minute.
I know.
I think it's safer
and ex-Senator Harper, he's out there too, and I like him. He's a good dude. So they're an easy team to cheer for. I like Dallas. They got all the games right now, and I think with their goaltending getting better here, with Bish coming back in, they're gonna be tough to beat.
Also, Matt Duchene playing in Nashville as well. All right, coming up after the break, we will have number 90 of the Nashville Predators, Mark Borowiecki, stopping by. Also, don't forget, coming up later in the show, Trivial Trivia presented by GONGSHOW.com. They're giving away a sauce-off kit. Lots more still in the show. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Wally and Methot Show. All right, welcome back to the show. And now for show number 9, we bring in number 90, which is still weird to see. Mark Borowiecki of the Nashville Predators. Boro, how are you?
Good. Appreciate you guys having me on. I've been hopeful to be able to jump on here, so thank you.
We're glad to have you. And as always, you've been so good with us in Ottawa to deal with. And so we got questions for you, lots of them. Sit back, relax, and we'll grill you if you don't mind. First, I know you haven't played in a bit. I think it's since the 13th. Can you give us an update, I guess, on how you're doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I mean, it's been slow going for sure. This has been a bit of a trying, year for me personally so far, getting COVID kind of right before training camp, and then kind of right into this injury. So, I'm making some kind of slow and steady progress. Was able to get a good hard bike right in today, and Matt can attest in situations like this. You got to kind of take the small positives out of it, and for me today, being in the gym and being on the bike was that kind of positive step.
We just had Mark Stone on, who said the same. He got COVID too, just early on. Can you take us through what it's like, I guess, as a pro athlete when you're supposed to be at the top of your game, if you will, and dealing with COVID symptoms?
Yeah, man, the timing was, I first I got to preface it by saying, like, I don't want to do disrespect to people who've actually been, that their lives have been seriously affected by this. They've lost family members and friends. So, some of this stuff seems trivial because, this wasn't a super serious issue for me, but so, with all due respect, it was more kind of an annoyance and frustrating for me. It was a bunch of us kind of got it at once. We had someone training with us who's not part of our organization, and I won't name names, but who brought it in, was an exposure risk for us. And I'd been in Nashville since mid-November, just been training so hard, was feeling good. We had great skates going here, kind of small groups. We're split up into groups of 8. Everyone's feeling great. And then, wham, you're sidelined for 14 days doing nothing. And that's when the anxiety kicks in. You're like, oh, training camp's right around the corner. I think it was like 2 days before training camp, it was 2 weeks before training camp. I was going to miss the first couple of days of training camp. You're kind of like, all this hard work for nothing, right? And then it kind of feels like you're playing catch up a little bit after. I'm not sure what Stoney's symptoms were. Like, it definitely rocked me pretty good for a few days. I had like a couple of days where for whatever reason, I've heard this from other guys too, like my low back and my outer hips were so locked, like I couldn't touch my knees for a couple of days. So like coming back, I was just so stiff. I wasn't feeling great, and it does kind of feel like you're playing catch up. So definitely glad that's in the past.
Yeah. And I was going to say, like, and I can only imagine, you're with the new team. You just want to go in there and make some noise, and all of a sudden you're dealing with this, and you have no idea how to handle it. So did you have any like flu-like symptoms or anything like that, Boro, or was it just like body aches?
So we had, we were testing twice a week, and we had gotten a notification that, hey, so-and-so tested positive, and he was in my group. And my next COVID test was on Friday. I think it was like Thursday night, and I had a tickle in my throat. And I was just like, this is way too coincidental.
Oh, no.
I was like, oh no. So, gave the proper people the heads up. Sure enough, tested positive. And then, it sort of felt like kind of a flu, like, more so the body aches for sure, but I had a bit of a headache, had the scratchy throat, was coughing a bit. And then, by like day 2 or 3, like the body aches really intensified, and it was that lower back issue I was having.
Oh, wow.
And then unfortunately, Tara got sick, my wife, and hers was more of like classic sort of like cold flu, like really congested and stuff like that. And, our son Miles was like 8 months old at the time, and I didn't know it doesn't affect kids, but we were kind of in panic mode, like calling our pediatrician, being like, what do we do? So luckily it didn't affect him, but yeah, it really is just kind of a tough situation for a family to be in.
So go back to Nashville and trying to join this new team, because you hadn't played in another organization. What is that whole thing like, aside from the COVID and all that, but just joining this new organization, and one that is so well respected?
Yeah. And that was a big, deciding factor in me signing here. I had some other options, and I think just like the esteem that people around the league hold the Poyle family in, like, I've had a lot of ex-players call me and be like, I had guys who played for them later in their career telling me, like, I signed in Washington because David was there and I wanted to play for him again. And so that to me was like, I've been around you guys a lot, and I think, that's something I value, like, what this organization, is, and sort of the standard they hold themselves to. That was something that I really wanted to be a part of. And I was pumped to join, and everyone here has been great. And don't get me wrong, there's tons of amazing people in Ottawa, the staff, the medical guys, the athletic guys, the equipment guys. And that sort of carried over here, and combine that with sort of the way this franchise handles itself. It seemed like a great fit.
Was it tough to make that decision to eventually leave? I know you had to go because you weren't getting signed, but was it tough to go through all that?
Yeah, it wasn't easy for sure. I kind of, and again, Mets have been around a lot of guys who have gone new places. By a certain point in the season, when there hasn't been serious contract talks, that, the writing's on the wall, right? So that's when you start kind of weighing your options, and, you start dreaming about places you want to go. But, I do think I underestimated the transition. Like, I had put so much pressure on myself. Like, I wanted to come in here and I was like, yeah, I want to be tough. I want to be good defensively. I want to chip in offensively. I had a good year offensively last year. I want to chip in. I want to be a good teammate. I want to be a leader. I want to help the coaches out. And then you forget to sort of just like take care of your house and play your game. And I think I started the season out really well. And then I had a bit of a lull where I let all these things sort of become the priority instead of just focusing on my game. So I really underestimated, I think, how difficult that transition would be. And then I really started to settle in, felt great, was playing good hockey and got hurt. And it's just sort of the way it is. But, I wouldn't change it for sure. I've met some great people here and I do love being here.
Yeah. And that's such a great barn to play in when it's packed. Hey, like just from my past experiences playing in Nashville, like it's one of those places where I feel like for many guys around the league, it's probably a top 5 location, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously you've got a lot of integrity, Boro, and you believe in like the organizations, but it's also a great tax spot to avoid some of that stuff. So I mean, there's bonuses to everything, but
you guys really cut into the core of the issue.
Yeah. No, but I just wanted to add, that's another element, the fan element there in Nashville. That's a huge advantage that team has going in there because it's so loud, eh? So I feel like once things start to open up, that'll be a nice thing to kind of hear.
I mean, there really is a lot of upside to playing in a market like this. Like how many times back did we play games there? And after warm-ups, you're like, all right, boys, survive the first 10 minutes here, like weather the storm,
Yeah.
Like that was classic Predators hockey when you used to come here. They'd have these like big physical, aggressive teams, and they would come out flying the first 10 minminutes. And I was like, I want to be on the giving end of that, So yeah, I mean, it sucks that the world landscape is what it is right now, and sporting landscape is what it is right now. But I'm really looking forward to that next year, and you can even kind of see it a little bit now. We have more fans in the building now.
How many? How many do you guys have in there?
I don't know the exact capacity. It's pretty small. Like they've got it. They're doing it pretty well. But the fans are rowdy here regardless, and it's kind of like that party atmosphere is similar to Vegas, but I think the novelty of angry Canadians with no teeth is like pretty cool. So they do enjoy that, and I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, imagine rowdy fans. I mean, you guys have that. I'm sure Wally's well aware of the strip right there on Broadway or whatever it's called. So you've got all these people having a great time and then going down to the game. I envy that for sure.
It is a good setup. They've done it well. Like you said, the rink's kind of right in the mix, and I think that's something that a market like Ottawa needs and could kind of learn from. Like you really draw in a lot of people who aren't even like traditional hockey fans. They just do it for the experience and kind of the nightlife. So.
You're not even a country guy, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah. I mean, like, I went through my phase where I went through my phase where I thought I was cool and listened to country. From suburban Ottawa, I'm a country boy, I mean, like I'll listen to like Chris Stapleton and stuff. Like I can appreciate like good quality music. Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I'm not really into the top 40 country stuff, but you'd be surprised. Like this city, it's kind of got a bit of a hipster element that I think I fit into a little bit. So, and Matthew, you would appreciate our strength coach here. He rocks out to like Metallica and Stained all the time and stuff. So I get my rock.
Love it.
Way, so yeah.
And I know you really like Nashville. I mean, it's a beautiful city and it's fun. Would you retire there?
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I had given some serious consideration. Obviously, I'm getting towards the back nine of my career here, so which is scary to say sometimes, but you got to start thinking about these kind of long-term decisions. And we did sell our place in Ottawa. It was just a good time in that market to be a seller, as I'm sure you guys know. And there were a lot of parallels to raising a family in Nashville as there were to Ottawa. It's a similar size city. And we just love the neighborhood we're in. There's kind of a lot going on. It is a really progressive, city, especially for where it is geographically. And there's great schooling, there's great healthcare. And we're kind of like, this is an option that we definitely be open to.
Did you guys apply for your green card?
We've given it some thought. It was a bit of a slow process under the previous administration. I think it's going to be a little bit easier under this one. Yeah. So not really sure on the details, but something that I talked to my agent about. And, if I could open those doors, I'd love to, especially for, Miles. And like, we're also right now in the process of hopefully getting a Polish passport. So we have EU passports. So nice. Like, I think that just opens so many doors for not just Tara and I, but our kids too. So definitely something we're open to.
Yeah, we did the same thing in Dallas. I think we got through like step 2 because we just felt Yeah, we just fell in love with it down there. Like people were so like that Southern hospitality thing. I'm sure you can attest to it now.
For sure.
It's a real thing, right? And
yeah,
we were like step 2, and we'd have to wait, I guess, another 180 days. I think it was, where we had to stay put. Yeah. And then I think in the end we were just like, you know what, like we can't keep the kids away from the family, so we came back home because Ellie's from here too, right? So, but it's something to look into for sure. I think you should at least explore.
Yeah, like I talked to my agent. I know a few of the other Canadian guys have done that down here. And like you said, man, like when you find a place you want to be, like it just seems like a natural fit. And yeah, it's a process, and there's, you know, kind of a financial expense to it. And, you know, you got to hire lawyers and jump all those hurdles. But when it's somewhere you want to be, I think it is worth it.
You brought up Polish passport, and I know you've talked about this in the past, but would you still, if you're, I don't know, 38, 30, would you ever go play in Europe?
38, not a chance, man.
Well, I still see you playing in the NHL for years. So
who do you think I am, Yager? Yeah.
I didn't want to retire you too soon. That's all I was trying to get at.
I've given it some thought for sure. You know, a good friend of mine here, and our captain, Roman Josi, he's Swiss. And I mean, like, Math knows, like, that's the league to play in, man. Like, it's a great lifestyle. They take good care of you. You know, you play 50 games a year and sleep in your own bed every night.
Huge.
So yeah, like that's, you know, it's definitely, I think you're gonna, like, you see more and more established guys who just do, when they're playing days, they're done in the NHL, they're not going back to the minors and riding the buses. They're going over and doing something like that. So I mean, it's something to think about for sure. And I'd like to get over there at some point, whether it's, you know, in a playing role or even in some sort of another job capacity for an NHL team. That's something that I'd be open to.
So what would that capacity be? Are you a coach? Are you a scout? Are you management?
Yeah, like I think it would be more on the management side of things. Like I don't know if when I'm done playing, I want to ride the daily ups and downs, you know, of coaching again. Like coaching, you know, it's the same level of stress as being a player.
Worse.
Yeah, like, you know, and especially in today's age, like these coaches put a lot of work in, you know, cutting clips. They're up all hours of the night, pre-scouting. Yeah. I think, you know, management, I'm not, by no means am I saying management is less work, but it's more of I think a bit of a long-term game.
Yep.
And, you know, I do like being around young guys, like talking to young guys. You know, I do kind of relish that sort of like mentor role a little bit as I've gotten older, you know, much in the same way I had guys like Matt and Clark MacArthur and these guys who were awesome for me coming in. And I'm like, what's a cool way to pay that forward? And who knows, maybe it's on the management side of things. So
since you brought up kind of being in Ottawa and playing with Meth, what I'm going to ask for both of you is, what's it like to play for your hometown team?
Go ahead, Meth.
Oh, well, I mean, the circumstances were different because I was traded to Ottawa. Boro obviously grew up through the organization, but I think you just have this sense of pride. You know, like when I came from Columbus, I was up and ready to go every game. There were games, I'm sure, like, you know, I've made jokes in the past where I'd stick my head out the window driving out to Canada because I was so tired and I just wanted to wake up. But once you're on the ice, Boro can attest to this, and you've got your parents, like your old man's in the stands watching you play behind you. You just have this, like, you know, this need to kind of make everybody proud of you, and you want to represent your city well because you know all your friends are watching, and it was never an issue of being motivated for a game. So for me, that would have been the best thing. And obviously growing up watching the Sens, it's always a dream, right? So
I mean, Matt's old man's a badass. I'd be scared playing in front of that guy too. He'd knock me sideways. So.
I don't know.
But, yeah, like, so like Matt said, it's different circumstances, you know, because I did grow up in the organization. I remember being so like timid and starstruck my first couple of years. Like, you know, here were guys who I like worshipped and watched. You know, I remember my first game, like dressing room with these guys and Alfie and Spats and these guys, you know. I was like, oh my God, like, what am I doing here? You know, like imposter syndrome. Like, I don't belong here. Like, yeah. And you know, I think I really struggled with that early in my career, and I didn't play my game because I was a little bit hesitant and timid. And then I think once I settled into, you know, believing I am an NHL player, then, you know, all these benefits of being in your hometown and that immense pride that Meth talked about, you know, exact same thing for me. Like, it was special for sure. You know, our buddies were all Sens fans, our families. It's pretty cool, especially playing in front of them night in and night out.
So did both of you have, I guess, Sens jerseys growing up? I'm curious. My reason I'm asking that is, what was it like to see the first time someone in the stands is wearing, you know, a Borowiecki jersey or a Meth jersey? that you get to see?
Go ahead.
You want me? Well, I mean, growing up, I had, some hockey cards that I was collecting, but I was always a huge Ray Bourque fan and Boston Bruins fan because Sens didn't come in until about 93, right? So I was already 8. I was already watching. But one winter I wanted, remember those starter jackets? Like they're those pullover jackets.
Yeah.
Well, I really wanted a Boston Bruins one. Like I had to have one. And, my parents, they don't care. So they're like, oh, here's an Ottawa Senator one, go to school and beat it. So I'd be like, so I get this Ottawa Senator starter jacket, but I fell in love with it. And then I started following the Sens, and my dad would take me to the occasional game. So I kind of grew on me there as a fan growing up. So that's kind of how it all worked out. But I mean, I guess Boro could probably elaborate more on that. It's probably different for him. He's a little younger.
Yeah. I mean, they were my team the whole way. It was cool for sure. I mean, the Boro jerseys were few and far between, especially at the beginning. I guess they picked up a little bit towards the end.
They picked up a lot.
Yeah. When I scored 7 goals, they're like, oh, this guy does have some skill. Yeah. Surprise. Yeah. But no, I mean, again, that's just I think a source of pride. Like, it's cool. Like I remember those, like when I had a jersey as a kid, like that guy was like my idol, and like I worshiped him. And like for me, like, and I'm sure it's Matt, like I think I'm just a normal dude, so like seeing someone who went out of their way to buy my jersey and represent my name too, it's pretty cool and a little bit surreal.
Who is it that you had a jersey of?
Like I was always a huge Yashin guy.
No, you weren't.
Yeah, I love Yashin. Yeah.
Like the last guy I could picture BoroCop being a fan of is a
my parents still have a Yashin Sherwood kicking around in their house from when I was a kid. There was a few guys. I can't remember exact jerseys, but I was a huge Yashin fan. I did really like Randy Cunningworth too, the way he played. I always loved him, and there was a ton of guys I looked up to. And as I got a little bit older, it was guys like kind of like Volchi and Philly, like these D-men who played the way that I kind of saw myself playing.
Why didn't you change your number
in Ottawa?
Yeah. Why is it 7? Why was it 70? Like you could have gone to, I don't know, 7 eventually or something. But
it was a training camp number. Like they gave me that. And then I just started playing with it. A few of my buddies got 74 jerseys, and I was like, I'm not going to switch this now, and then it ended up working out that my anniversary, my wife and I got married on July 4th. So she's like, you cannot change this now, like 7-4. Like, so I was like, oh, fair enough. And then, moving down here, I was like, it's time for a fresh change. And Josi Saros, our goalie, wore 74 too. And I'm not the kind of guy who's going to be like, I'm older than you. Like, give me your number, So I wanted something with a 9 in it because Miles was born on the 9th of February. So
74 is a good number though. Like for a training camp number,
it's pretty solid. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when I got to Columbus, mine was 48.
That's awful.
48 might be the worst possible training camp number you could. And I still remember, and it was such a big deal for me that I had such a brutal number on my back. So so in Boro's defense, 74 looks like a legitimate NHL player's number.
That's the kind of number that you can take and make your own, right? Like 48, it's just like you're going back down to the minors.
48's tough. If you've got 48, the writing's on the wall before
one turnover and you're wearing number 48, you're back on the bus.
Oh, it was true. I was gone.
That's so I didn't see that coming. Did you ever ask Saros why he has 74, which is so strange for a goalie?
I actually haven't, to be honest, but I'm not sure what the reason is. It's probably something like this guy's the nicest guy I've ever met in my life. Like he's just such a nice, kind, polite human being. I'm sure it's just something super innocent. Like he's just the kind of guy you want to give a hug all the time. So it's probably something funny.
You guys are rolling now. You're starting to win a lot more games and now climb back into a playoff spot. Is there something that's changed of late? And do you feel a lot better where this game is going for the Nashville Predators?
Yeah, like we obviously weren't good at the beginning of the year, but I don't think that was an accurate reflection of us or the personnel we have. Sometimes you just kind of get in these ruts, and especially our special teams. Our PK just couldn't get going. I think we had one series against Dallas where we just got torched by Klingberg. And then, I know as a penalty killer, you take a lot of pride in that percentage number. And we kept looking at it and being like, it's a terrible percentage. And I think subconsciously it's like, we're going to go out here and get scored on again. And we're going to go out here and get scored on again. And you kind of get down this rabbit hole. And I think we kind of got sucked into that a bit. It really is like, playing at this level, it's like 10% physical and like 90% mental, right? Like to me, like the difference between the NHL and the AHL, it's like, how do you figure out how to do it night in, night out and be the best player you can mentally. And so having said that, I think, for our group now, we've kind of found this confidence and this ability to kind of dig deep in tight games and get the job done. Whereas I think, at the beginning of the year, we were a little bit fragile.
I know the fans have just come in and I don't think they're anywhere close to you guys as players, but has there been any catfish on the ice?
Yeah. We had one we even had one. I don't know who threw it on, but it was in like our like inter squad games in training camp and there was no fans. So I'm like looking around, I was like, is that our head coach who just threw catfish on the ice there? But there's been a few. So it's kind of a funny little tradition here. I always feel bad for the fish. It just looks so dead and lonely. So
pretty sure he is dead. Yeah. What is your favorite thing about the organization? Like, what is it that really pulls that team together in Nashville?
I think that's a tough question for, in terms of an identity for an organization. I know, and again, a big reason why I signed here is that this team does do a lot of work in the community. And I think they've really ingratiated themselves to this community around here. It's, it's the novelty of having a sports team, but they do give back a lot. The Preds Foundation is a big part of this organization, a big part of this city. And I think people appreciate that, and it goes a long way. And in terms of the group of guys, it is really a positive, upbeat group. I think it's a good mix. We've got a lot of great European guys who kind of bring a different perspective, and our captain's Swiss, and we've just got like a really good mix of guys in that room. And for whatever reason, it does seem to click, and guys get along really well here, and I really enjoyed it.
Speaking of your captain, Roman Josi, he flies under the radar. I know he won a Norris Trophy, but he flies under the radar, it seems, because of probably playing in Nashville. He probably should have won one before. Now that you've seen him on a daily basis, give us your assessment of his game.
Yeah, like this guy's edge work is insane. Like his ability to be elusive, especially in the O-zone. Like when you see, like for most defensemen, you get the puck up top in the O-zone, like around the blue line, you're like, if I turn this over, like sirens are going off in your head. Like he's like up there, like doing like stop acts and like rolling off guys and stuff. And I'm like, man, like I just would have shot that over the glass for sure.
For sure.
Like, get a new line out. Yeah. Like
it's like a grenade. Like, you're just trying to get rid of it.
Exactly. It's like, get this off my stick. Yeah. But he's just like, he's so poised with the puck. And his edges, like right away from the summer too, I was really impressed with his edges. And another thing with him is, for such a skilled guy and such a high-end skilled guy and an offensive guy, like in these summer skates, like he was working so hard, like every rep in every drill. And I'm not saying this, lightly, like he every rep was like full speed. And I think that is a big reason why he's so good, because he's able to do things at 100%. He's able to make all these moves at full speed. And he really is like a really fun player to watch. And he's a great guy, which is just, anytime you have a guy who's like a really solid human being, to see them have success makes it extra special.
Has the owner asked you to do any interviews?
I think there's like 16 of them. So that would be a really big interview. I think it's a group, but I think one's enough. I'll take a pass on that one. That gave me a few gray hairs. You probably see them somewhere in here.
Do you miss the media in Ottawa?
I don't miss you very much, but
thanks.
It's a different vibe for sure, man. It's different this year too, because you're not in person, but you do like your media scrum. I say that because it's COVID scrum, but your Zoom scrum, and it's like 3 questions. They're like, all right, that's it, you're done. Yeah. I'm like, okay, that was easy. Like, yeah, it's definitely a different vibe, but everyone is super friendly down here. I've gotten to know a few of the people, the writer for The Athletic, Adam, and our media relations crew is great. So different vibe, but I did enjoy my time in Ottawa for sure. Talking with you guys.
For those people that don't know who are tuning into this show, if Boro had a media scrum, it would probably last 15, 20 minutes, and he would stay even longer and chat with everybody and just shoot the crap. So for him to have 3 questions is just getting warmed up. So I can appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate it actually all the time you spend, because I would always come in at the end and go, just one more question. And it'd be like,
you were trying to get the off the record juicy stuff. Yes.
No,
really greasy. He's
yeah,
so
yeah.
greasy.
You know, he's just kind of like slinking. Yeah, like
For sure.
By the way.
He acts all buddy with you, and then he just buries you the next day.
Under the bus. Yeah.
I just would come in at the end with all the better questions. That's all.
You know, like, I think some guys lose sight of the fact that, like, you know, as the media can be an annoyance, whatever. Yeah, you know, sometimes you don't want to sit there and answer questions, but like, you guys are professionals doing a job, and you have families to support, and this is your job, and this is what you want to do in your life. Like, you know, like, I don't know. I think it's a bad look to not give you guys the time of day and just treat you as equals and peers. And, you know, it's really not that difficult. You sit there and just have a conversation, usually with someone you end up having something in common with, and then you build a rapport and go from there. So.
Yeah, no,
I think, well, no, wait, I was just going to say, I think some players, they just take themselves way too seriously. I mean, you forget, like, they forget who they are. Like, you're playing a game for a living, and the media guys, you know, whether they're broadcasters or the radio boys, they're selling the product for you. Right. Yeah. So it's like, just give them a couple minutes. Like, it's their job, and it's your job to do that too, because fans want to hear from you, right? For sure. I never understood that. Hey, Boro, like, when you see the odd guy, like, he's bitching about having to do some media, I'm like, what are you complaining about?
I agree. And it's like 5 minutes out of your day. And like, you know, to build off that, like, plus, like, you know, if you go through a rough stretch of play and you're rude to these guys day in and day out, like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, just as if there's any young player out there listening to this, like, just as advice, like, you know, if you treat people with respect and decency, they're probably going to cut you a little slack.
Yes.
You know, if you're like standoffish and really short with the media all the time, like, yeah, they're going to want to bury you. I mean, you act like an asshole, you know, I hope I can
agree
say
more.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I would cut you slack. No, and if I ever had a question,
I didn't have very many bad games in Ottawa, so it's not like you had to.
No, like, pretty much an all-star every time you took to the ice. But if you were struggling, or the team was struggling, at least you would know what I'm trying to get from you without trying to bury you. Like, why are you not winning any more games?
For sure.
Just like what's going on? So
that's just like basic interpersonal social skills, right? Like, chances are, if you're kind and respectful to someone, they're going to reciprocate that at some point. Like,
you guys had a teammate in Ottawa that we send the camera in for 30 seconds as you guys are getting dressed. We get 3 shots of players, and they use it in warm up, and we go on our day. Well, you had one teammate, whenever they were requested to be the one of them on camera, would always go to the back and do his hair. Every time the camera would turn, he's like, gotta do my hair. I'm like, why would we cut you any slack later?
Well,
because
just bury him right now, Wally. Who was it?
I can't do it. Mike Hoffman.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Was it really?
Yeah. He'll always be gone. Yeah.
All right. Well, now he had a lot of hair up there, I think. Hey, Boro, I can't remember.
Yeah, the boys used to tell him to take his helmet off sometimes.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I remember. Oh man. Okay. Well, now that the cat's out of the bag. All right.
Getting out of this before I get in trouble is you scored 7 goals in your last year in Ottawa. Led Ottawa defense in scoring. I want to know which one of all the goals you've scored is your favorite. Not just those 7, but any of your career.
I mean, first one was pretty cool. Actually, my D partner was Mark Methot for my first NHL goal against Carey Price. I got a picture in my gym over there, Meth and me celebrating. Trying to think, last year I had a pretty cool one in Tampa. It was on the father's trip, so it was always special to score when your dad's in the building, especially a trip like that, where you're spending time with him day in, day out. So that was pretty sweet. I was pretty fired up about that. There was one last year too, actually, that was pretty funny. It was against Philly, and the prior game to Philly, I had that huge hit on Konechny that they didn't like. He ended up missing some time, and they had dressed Chris Stewart that game. And, I talked to DJ, and he was like, I don't think this guy's worth your time. So he was like chasing me around, like in warm-ups. He was like, I'm coming for you, all this nonsense. I was just like, all right, dude. And they're coming after me all game, and they end up scoring. And I was just kind of like,
That's
so
awesome.
that one was fun too.
And you're not a big trash talker, right? Like you don't say much.
No.
Like, did you skate by the bench?
No, I didn't really say anything, just personal pleasure there. But no, like, I don't know, trash talking for me, usually when you run your mouth, you get your face beat in. So I don't know. It's bad juju, I think, sometimes.
Did you ever have long conversations or heated exchanges in the penalty box?
I've had a few. I actually had one this year with Patty Maroon. We ended up making amends about it after, but not too much. I don't know. I just don't really like running my mouth that much.
Because is that the game you got the 10-minute misconduct?
Yeah, I just kind of like snapped that game. That was kind of stupid. So I actually ended up apologizing to him for that. I kind of suckered him. He like had me tied up in the fight and wouldn't really fight. So I was like, I'm just going to pull you down the ice and sucker you. And then I was like, well, that was stupid. So I kind of apologized to him. I was like, hey, I wasn't in a good headspace. Sorry, man. So
Stuff happens on the ice all the time. Okay. Couple of different questions. One, your former teammate, Robin Leonard, I'm sure you've seen the video now, who had to come out and basically say, listen, I don't have a concussion. I'm dealing with some mental issues or whatever that I have to try and defend. This is beyond me. Have you reached out to him? I don't know if you guys still talk, but I know you're an advocate for mental health and everything else. And so I'm curious of your reaction to what's gone on with Robin.
Yeah. I was really like sad and upset that he even had to address that. I don't really talk to Robin a whole lot anymore. I don't really have a contact info for him, but I just posted like a little blurb on my Instagram quick, and it's just like, I just don't think it's anyone's business speculating about anyone else's mental health. Right. I haven't gone into a lot of detail, but I'm not ashamed to admit that I've had my ups and downs, and I continue to have those ups and downs. And I can't help but think there's so many guys around the league who are so scared to get help because they're scared that it's going to be a black mark on them. And it's like, speculating about someone's mental health and having it be a topic of conversation and questioning their ability to play down the road because of their mental health. Like, all that does is make guys even more, scared or unwilling to get the help that they need. And that this help with their mental health issues, this isn't just related to their on ice play. That this could be in terms of their health at home and their family life, and this just affects so much. And for someone to be scared to get that help because we're sitting around speculating about mental health, and I don't know, it just really didn't sit right with me, and it kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
And you continue to be a mental health advocate. I know April 22nd, I think it's online. You're doing a Dynamic Dads thing with the Royal Ottawa. Do you want to help fill that in?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought it up, and it's something that they had approached me about. And I'm always, I never want to come across as like preachy or anything, like, or self-righteous, but I know, like I said in my Instagram post, like, I'm not an expert on parenting. Like, my son's 14 months old. Like, you guys have way more experience than I do. But, like, I think we can kind of all relate to some of these ups and downs of being a father and being a new parent, and that transition to parenthood. It's tough, right? Like, like it's that cliche about like leaving the hospital and you strap your kid into the car seat and you're like, now what? Well, it's a cliche because it's true. Like, there's no guidebook or anything. It's tough, it's hard. And when they had approached me about this initiative, I was super excited to help out. And, it's about, I think, making yourself, as mentally healthy as possible, so that you can be the, not only the best man, but the best husband and father too. And that's going to be kind of my messaging in this talk is, you have to take care of your own mental health first, before you want to help others. And there's ways to go about that and do that. And hopefully I can maybe give a little bit of insight based on experience. As I'm sure you guys have many stories too and many ideas. So it's just a chat I'm excited to be part of.
You've also been a big supporter of the LGBTQ community. It's come up recently about if there would ever be when's the right time for acceptance of a gay NHL player. And we have yet to have anybody come out playing in the NHL. As both you, perhaps as players, are we ready and are we there yet for that to happen?
Yeah. I mean, like, I'll be honest. I think our sport has culture wise lagged behind some of the other sports a bit. We are such a masculine sport. I get that, like we all take a lot of pride in being tough and these like, archetypal masculine traits. But I think to say, hard no, that there's no room for a gay player in this league, to me is wrong. They're just like any other walk of life. There are a ton of guys in this league who are really accepting and really understanding. And I know for a fact, and I'm sure Methodists too would be more than open to it. It's something like, to me, your sexual orientation, it's a huge part of your identity. But it's like, it's your sexual orientation. It doesn't affect me.
Right.
And if that's, who you are, then I'm going to be right there with you and behind you and supporting you as a teammate, as a player, as whatever it may be. So, if it ever comes to it, that someone does come out as gay in the NHL, like, awesome. I'm going to be right there with them, as I'm sure someone like Meth would too. And I do think we have room for it. And I think our sport continues to grow and evolve in a positive way. And we need more guys to kind of get behind that movement.
A couple of quick questions before we let you go. One, you guys had a very big incident not too long ago between you and Detroit with an open mic on Tim Peel. I know you weren't in the line. I don't believe you were in the line for that game. Can you has there been much chat about it? I know the guys on the ice were like kind of caught in surprise, if you will. Like, can you take us through that?
Yeah, I will say, the organization asked us not to weigh in on it too much. Sure. It is an NHL matter, right? It's between the referees and the NHL, and they obviously handle it the way that they saw fit. And like, we all make mistakes out there. Reffing's tough. Like, it's a thankless job. Like, these guys have a tough job. No one's ever happy with them. So, again, I'm not going to weigh in on it too much. I have a good relationship with Tim. I think as a player, just go out of your way again to treat these guys like human beings and understand that, they're prone to mistakes just like that. Us, I throw the odd terrible pass up the middle of the ice and they're going to say something stupid or make a stupid call. So, I think treating everyone with a bit of grace, kind of goes a long way. So that's all I'll say on that.
Very well said. Do you guys pay attention to the other divisions in hockey this year? This year's obviously so different. Here you are playing against Tampa and Florida and Carolina. Like, I'm just curious if this is you only stick to basically your division because there's so many tight games compacted in, or are you paying attention to everything? For me personally, I haven't paid a ton of attention to the other divisions. I do follow the North a bit because obviously I played there so recently. But I've been really focused on the Central. I've actually been really enjoying this. Like, I think it's cool. I hope I'm not sure what your guys' thoughts are. I think it's something that the NHL should be maybe a little more open to in the future. I like playing kind of these like series sets. I think it makes more sense, financially. I think it makes more sense for guys from a health perspective. You're not flying in and out at all hours of the night. You get in, you play a few teams, you can settle in a city for a night. Meth, like I was talking to some of the older guys on the team, like how nice would it be? You got 3 games in wherever, Florida, you can go out for some team meals with the guys, get to know your teammates, settle in. Like, how awesome is that? And I think it's something that we should be open to. So,
yeah. The only thing, I guess, from like a media standpoint now, I can't believe I'm saying that, or like fans, it's
he's
like,
changed already.
Yeah, but so much. I can tell. Yeah.
As a player, like, and everyone knows, like Boro knows, I hated the late travel. Like, I'm such a creature of habit. And when you're like sleep patterns all disrupted and I'm relying on taking like a NyQuil after a game just to fall asleep, because Boro knows it's so hard to come down after a game. So my point is, you're always scrambling to get good sleep. You're not sleeping well. Wally, you're aware too, because you travel as much as we did.
A terrible
and
sleeper.
It's like, and it's like, it creates like a complex. Like, my wife thinks I'm crazy because like, it's like I go to bed now every night. I'm like in bed at like 9:30, 10 o'clock because I'm like, because I can, like I just want to do it. And so, I think aside from what a player wants, I know the fans, like, we're not getting to see a lot of players around the league. Like, we're so insulated because of the divisional kind of rivalries now that are happening in the scheduling. So I think it's hit or miss. Like, I'd love to see what McDavid and Matthews could do against some of the other big dogs around the league versus them constantly playing the same teams.
Yeah.
But from a player standpoint, I agree. It would be nice to probably just settle into a more consistent sleeping habit and travel habit, right?
And I think it's important that you bring up like the other side of the equation in that perspective too, right? Like for me, it's purely selfish. I'm like, I want to be able to enjoy my time in Vancouver, New York, X, Y, Z, and sleep normally and be a functioning human being in the mornings. But at the same time, I hope that there's a way that they can make it work where you get to see Crosby play McDavid a couple of times a year, but maybe still have this same sort of divisional setup. Like I think it's kind of cool. It's kind of novel. Like I think it would draw fans into that North Division too. I mean, who doesn't like seeing, these, Battle of Alberta over and over and over, these guys trying to rip each other's heads off. Like it kind of leads to some excitement. And I think you can kind of, also say that in these 3-game sets, you have a first game that's maybe a little heated, a little chippy. Well, there's a lot more intensity competing in those next 2 games. You sort of create these mini rivalries. So.
A couple of quick questions. One, before you go, and that is internet sensation question we ask each and every guest. And that is, if you're sitting down to a movie and you get to have one cheat snack, what is your cheat snack?
A cheap snack.
Hey, and Boro, I know you take really good care of yourself. Don't be a hero and say you're going to eat beef jerky or something.
It's going to be some quinoa.
Yeah, like
athletic greens shake. Yeah, no. I mean, I don't think they serve this at movie theaters, but I'm a sucker for a big bowl of ice cream. So, I mean, like you give me a big bowl of ice cream, I could pound that. So I'll go with ice cream.
Flavor?
I'm pretty boring, dude. I just like straight vanilla or chocolate.
Me too.
Just give me
French
the classics,
vanilla.
Yeah. That's my kind of guy. Like, my wife wants like cookie dough and all this nonsense. I'm like,
and they mix it all in different flavors, and then
it's just gross.
Yeah, I agree.
No, there's no need for that whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't want sprinkles. I don't want cherries. I just want a nice
bowl. Yeah.
High quality
thank you.
Chocolate ice cream, like
final question, I think, although I usually tend to come up with some more, I always say that to you. Like last question, then it's 4 more later.
You can ask me as much as you want, man. My son's asleep right now. I got nothing to do. So
if you were to put your teeth in, which one of you would have a better smile?
Oh, meth for sure.
Oh, I don't know, man. Up close, I got some big chompers. I'm a little
that are chipped. I've got like a dead one that's been root canal and it's like gray on the bottom.
You know what though? Same, but Boro, I waited. So like, because everyone knows, like, and I think some fans don't understand. Like, you should never put in permanent ones, like the ones that I have while you're still playing, because you can crack your whole palate, right? So that's why you don't have them.
Like, don't get the spikes put up because your jaw breaks before the spikes do.
Exactly. So when you're done, just take advantage of the plan, get it all fixed, and you're going to be all set.
Exactly. Yeah, that is the plan right now.
How upset were you with the first time you lost a tooth?
I thought it was sweet. Yeah, I was pumped.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, bro.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I had bad teeth. I did not like my teeth, so I lost them. Yes, it was awesome.
See, but see, with me, it happened at the Sensplex skating in the summer when I was still playing for the Blue Jackets. So I'm in practice. Yeah, it's in practice in the middle of summer. So I get it knocked out, blood everywhere, because people don't understand, when you lose a tooth, you're not just losing a tooth. There's damage everywhere. Like my lip's swollen. I'm bleeding out of my lower lip. Yeah. All the money my parents put towards my braces out the window. So I got to drive myself to the emergency at the Ottawa Civic, get all stitched up and down. And then I got to drive my ass to the dentist, and they're giving me root canals. My lowers are all crooked. Like, it's not glamorous, but at least you had yours done, I'm assuming, during the season, right? So
yes, I was in Binghamton. So like you said, like, I didn't go, like, whenever guys get hurt in summer skates, you're like, oh no, like, that is
the worst.
Yeah. Like, I remember Mike Blunden, Chris Neal hit Mike Blunden in the face with a wrist.
Oh, I remember that.
And this was like one of the gnarliest cuts I've ever seen. And he had like family photos with his wife, like in like 2 days or something. She had it all booked. This must have been like a 20 stitcher. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, because he was driving the net in the summer skate. Yes. And Nealer shot off the post, right? And it bounced right in the face. Yeah, it was brutal. I couldn't even look at him. And I've seen, as players, we see blood all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, but like for me with my teeth, they were like, I'd broken them so many times. I'm sure you know, Matt, like, you just get like the acrylic little buildups put on. and they just kept getting broken down. And finally they were like such small little nubs with like the roots hanging out. They're like, all right, we build these up again and it keeps happening, or we just yank what's left out. And I was like, just get them out. Because like you're breathing at night and every breath you take like rattles the roots.
Okay, but the problem with your setup and with when I didn't have a flipper in mind, I'd be at the bar like talking to people and I'm spitting all over their face during a conversation, and it's so embarrassing because it's happened to me and long before I met my wife, of course.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to a girl or another guy, and it's like they're like, you could see it like projectile hitting them in the face.
Yeah.
So eventually I had to get a flipper. I'm like, this is nonsense.
Yeah.
So
I actually so because of you, Meth, you always had the partial with this steel plate.
Heavy duty.
I had one with the acrylic plate that sucked. And same thing, like we'd be at like I like the casino event in Ottawa, and I'd like take a bite of the meal and like lose my flipper, it'd come out, and I was like, this is so humiliating.
It really is.
I need one of these steel ones that you had, because I remember it like clipped in and it was so good, and you were always telling me it's better. So I finally got one made, and it's actually like a game changer. I can wear it stuff, so.
You just pop it right in. I had mine for I had that steel flipper for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And I had it in Columbus, Ottawa, Dallas, never lost it.
Yeah. It's like they cut like the grooves into your teeth and it like clips in, like it's the best. Total game changer.
So we just tacked on another 10 minutes there.
Yeah.
Wally,
but
sorry.
I will say, having no teeth down here is like, in Canada, they all know that you're a hockey player.
Yes.
Like
down
here,
down there, they're like, who's this hillbilly cooking up moonshine in the hills?
Yeah. You get some sideways looks down here. Like people are like taking it back. Like it's different now when you're wearing a mask everywhere, but still like you come across someone on a walk and you like smile at them and you have like no chiclets, and you can see they're kind of like, oh, like, so.
Have you and Chris Neil ever taken a photo together? Like, I can't remember seeing the two of you basically with the two front teeth missing.
Yeah, I don't know. He had a pretty big gap too, actually.
Yeah, he did.
We have Chris Neil coming up in an episode, and I'm curious what he was like for you to be a teammate with.
Yeah, I mean, he was hilarious. I enjoyed it. Like I like idolized this guy when I was young. Like, he was, and I will say, pound for pound, I think he's one of the toughest guys to ever play in the NHL. Like,
agreed.
I have seen this guy take some shots where I'm like, my head would be in the rafters.
You could hear them. You could hear them. Hey, when he's near the bench and he would fight, you could see, and like, there's the odd punch he'd take, and I'm like, he's done. He wouldn't even draw. He'd just eat them.
Man, I don't know if you were on the team, but there was one where he fought Clayton Stoner. I think Stoner was playing for Minnesota at the time.
Yes, that's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, he hit Nealer so hard, and I think it buckled Nealer a bit. And somehow Nealer came back and just beat the wheels off this guy. I'm like, I would be in a legit body bag coming off the ice if I got hit with this punch.
Yeah,
but like he was fun. Like he liked playing like jokes on guys, but like guys could give it back to him. Like there've been some funny ones, like the one where they melted his hat.
Oh yeah, he had his favorite GONGSHOW hat. And
I can't even get it out. It was so. I think it was Smitty, right?
Yes. Well, that's so yeah, it was, anyway, I won't continue. I don't want to ruin the segment for Wally, but yeah, it was Smitty that melted his hat. It was so
funny.
No.
It just
go on.
He was always in the mix, like doing ridiculous stuff. And like, sometimes you were like, Nealer, like that's too far. Like you've crossed the line.
You had to tell him. Yeah, you had to pull him aside and be like, dude, just drop it. Like, and I heard a story.
And he like what you like throw people in the cold tub and stuff. You're like, okay, like enough's enough. Like
well,
someone's gonna get hurt.
He would wrestle some of the staff. Like, so he'd fight like Mitchie or some of the guys like our therapists.
I think he broke his glasses one day.
And he'd it was like cringy, like to the point where you feel like you got to step in and be like, dude, you're like an elite athlete, and he's a massage therapist. He can still handle himself, but not even close to Chris Neil.
Yeah, but you're arguably one of the toughest guys to play in the NHL. Like, we gotta go in. Like, I was scared of the guy. I was like, stay away from me. Like
yeah, because he would always take it to the net. Like Boro just said, like he'd always take it to the next level. So if you're gonna prank Nealer, first of all, you can't tell anybody. If somebody outs you, they're going to tell Nealer, and Nealer's going to come back to you and go like way above and beyond, where you might actually physically get hurt.
I think in Tampa Bay, Patty Weirkosh did something to Nealer's room. Nealer hit a piece of salmon in the back of Patty's truck, and it was there for like a month, I guess. And I think he like brought his truck into Toyota or whatever, and the guy was like, it was crazy, like just something insane like that. So, but no, like he was always so good to me. And this, he worked really hard. Like he worked hard. he was always out there doing extra. He always worked hard, and he was a good example for me as a young guy in summer workouts too. Like he took these workouts seriously. Like, you know, you're dodgeball.
Remember the running, Boro? We do like the shuttle runs, and he was
yeah, like this guy worked hard, man. And like if you didn't work hard, he would call you on it too.
Yeah, 100%.
Like he would tell like expect you to work that hard too. So, you know, I think he instilled a lot of good work habits in me as a young guy.
Yeah.
Who was your favorite teammate that you played with in Ottawa?
Mark Methot, obviously.
Just don't even see. That's just pandering at this point. Boro, pick somebody else. Seriously.
This interview is over.
Okay. I've been pretty lucky. I played with a lot of good guys. Up there for me as an all-timer is Chris Kelly. I think Matt can probably verify that. One of the nicest guys, and I think best teammates to play in the NHL.
Grumpy.
Yeah, he is a little grumpy, but when you were like the same grumpiness level as him, which I feel like me and you kind of were sometimes.
100%. I own it.
We could really relate to him. So I really enjoyed playing with him. And then guys who I came into the league with, like, you know, Mark Stone, Chabot, you know, guys like that who I kind of came up through the minors with. Like, you have such a connection with those guys, and they're guys that I still keep in touch with.
Chris Kelly, is he the smartest man in hockey?
I'm not sure. It's a good question. I think to me, he's the kind of person, I think, you know, his like overall skill set, it's like more, it's the, what's that saying? Like the sum of the, I'm not smart enough to know.
Some of all the parts or whatever.
Yeah. Like, you know, I think it's greater than any single attribute he has. Like, I think he's really approachable. He knows how to communicate with young guys. And I think he's got a good head for the game. Like, to me, I think he's the kind of guy where if he wants his trajectory in hockey to go as like a coach or management or something, I think he'll do really, really well.
Most underappreciated player you played with?
Most underappreciated player I have played with. There were a lot. I will say, like, Meth did a lot of good things for Carl. I'm not pandering at this point, but you know, like, when you have a guy who's a perfect partner for a dynamic player, I do think that goes a long way. And like, this guy's obviously not underappreciated. Like, you know, Mark Stone's not underappreciated, but like,
right.
I don't think you can truly appreciate this guy until like you're on the ice and seeing some of the ridiculous stuff he does with his stick.
Agreed.
Like, it's like a video game for this guy, like his puck skills and his hand-eye and stuff. Like, and I know everyone talks about it. He gets X amount of steals a year, but like when you actually play with this guy, you're like, or like go against him in practice, you're like, you can't get around him. Like,
yeah. So annoying, eh, Boro?
Yeah.
Like, we'd get the puck behind the net, even in practice. This would drive me nuts. Like, here I am getting the puck, thinking like I'm confident I'm going to skate it out of the zone, and that long 30-foot stick just kind of comes behind you and scoops it back. And I just wanted a two-hand in the back of the legs, you know?
Sure. You're like, hey,
so
like,
I
I'm
agree.
trying to look good in practice and get some more ice time here, pal. Like, cut me some slack, dude. Like, you know, I always want to make this breakout pass.
Yeah.
What's trade day like for players for you? Like, was last year tough? Because I don't know if you thought you were going anywhere or not.
Yeah.
But, like, can you take us through that day as a player?
Yeah, like last year was a little more stressful for me for sure. You know, I talked to Haley Salvian about it a little bit. Like, I think not so much like for me, it was like, if you get traded, you get traded. I mean, obviously it's tough, but like, you know, we were expecting, Tara and I had a really long road to be coming to getting pregnant. And it's just like this whole other factor and layer in my life where I was like, you know, I don't have a responsibility to just me as a player anymore, where I can just pack my bags and go live in a hotel and do something. Like, I want to be around for the birth of my son. I want to provide for them, you know, be support for them. So I did find that stressful. Yeah. And I'm sure Meth can speak to it a little more than I can.
Well, yeah. And people don't realize, you know, like, especially when you have a family, like, you're being uprooted, and logistically it's just a nightmare, right? Like, and not that we're privileged as people.
Yes,
don't get me
for
wrong,
sure.
of course. And I'm not disregarding any of that, but I mean, when you're taken from a place that you're rooted, you've got family, friends, whatever it might be, and then you're just getting thrown somewhere else like a piece of meat. It can be difficult for a lot of guys. And that's where having a good team that you're going to, like good leadership, guys that can kind of bring you in and make things easier for you. That makes it a lot easier. But I think for most players, it's hard, man. Like, and it happens like that. You got to bring your bag with you right away, and you're just going to stay in a hotel for a bit and play games with a lot of pressure. It's tough.
Yeah. And like, so I never experienced that, but like, even moving this summer, I found difficult. You know, you don't realize like how much stuff you have, like what
Yeah.
goes into getting across the border, all this stuff, moving down with a son. And just to speak to Mess point, like about having a good veteran group, like we had guys like here, like Roman Josi, like Pekka Rinne, like, these guys are just like quality human beings where like when I walked into the room, I just instantly kind of felt at ease and at home. I don't know if you play with Joey, with Brian Johansson, but he's just like such an outgoing, sociable guy. Like it just instantly makes that transition easier, and having guys like that is huge.
We do appreciate your time. I told you it was going to be one more question, and it ended up being 10. So we can't wait to see you back on the ice and healthy, and look forward to perhaps a long playoff run for the Nashville Predators, my friend.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. And, I miss being around you guys. Like Ottawa has a place forever in our hearts wherever we end up. And, I've had some great times playing with Meth and a lot of fond memories, and Wally, a few in the locker room, I guess, when you're trying to weasel some questions out of me, but
already, but no, hey, we can back up the tape. You already said you didn't miss me, so don't bother. It's okay.
Like nothing but gratitude and fond memories. And I do appreciate you guys having me on, and maybe one day we'll chat again soon. So yeah, thanks.
Appreciate it, Boro. Take care, my friend.
Thanks boys. Bro. All the best. You and your families. Thanks.
All right, welcome back to the show. Please be joined now by Craig, who brings in, as always, time for trivial trivia. Now, we're back today with another GONGSHOW.com sauce off kit, a fantastic backyard gift, retail value $250. It's the ultimate backyard hockey game, perfect for the cottage, road trips, tailgates, or playing in the driveway. This prize, fantastic, and we thank GONGSHOW.com for providing it. Craig, what do you got for us?
Well, before we give away another sauce-off kit, we have a Mark Stone bobblehead to give away. I don't know if you remember about that. He was on our last show, episode 8, and where we asked which Golden Knight player did Mark Stone say took his kids rollerblading down the Las Vegas Strip? And, of course, the answer, Max Pacioretty. There you go. Learn something new every day. So big shout-out to @M_Hall34, Matthew. We're going to reach out, and we're going to figure out a way to get you this Mark Stone bobblehead. But Wally mentioned the sauce-off kit, so let's give that away. So today's question, we're going to rewind back to Mark Borowiecki's interview. Super simple. What was Mark Borowiecki's favorite snack? So send us your answers on Twitter using the hashtag Wally and Methot. The contest closes on Wednesday, April 7th at noon Eastern, and we will reveal the winner on Thursday's show.
The best part about trivial trivia is we don't spend a lot of time thinking of these questions. It's clearly obvious, right?
Yeah, it's usually near the end. It's usually kind of a simple little fun thing. Yes.
I will say though, the Max Pacioretty one was pretty good because you have to go back and really listen for that one. So anyway, we'll try to think of something much more difficult next time. Probably not. Before we go, we want to do a little stick tap because today, April 5th, is Zach Smith's 33rd birthday. Now, we all remember Zach Smith, who played for the Ottawa Senators for 11 seasons, over 600 games, I think it is. I think he's 9th all-time in games played for the Ottawa Senators, and a true, real. I mean, he was a lot of fun to be around. And he was one of my favorite players to have to deal with. I know he was great in the locker room. Matthew, don't like his musical taste, but I do know you like him as a person.
Okay. It's not that I didn't like his musical taste. It's that I didn't like a portion of his musical taste. Actually, Smitty and I, but we bonded very well over the fact that we both love rock music. But every once in a while, he would gravitate into like some serious indie music. What a lot of people don't know about the Maple Creek native of Saskatchewan is that he's actually a bit of a hipster. And so the last thing you'd expect, right, from being from out there in the prairies, but yeah, he likes his indie music. He's a fantastic chef, really, really good in the kitchen. And he's very handy. He's good at building stuff around his house. So I learned a lot from Smitty. We had a really good bond when we were playing together in Ottawa.
He's a great woodworker. I know he's got a shop set up. And I remember Terry Marcotte, when he was with CTV, he did a feature with him, I don't know, building a birdhouse or a box. I think we should get him to make us some kind of box thing and we can give it away as a gift. That should be, for all that stuff we're going to say about Zach Smith and how nice he is. I think he should owe us something.
I was going to say, what's he getting out of this?
Yeah. So Smitty was always fun for us to deal with because he always came out and he was always very respectful of the media and he always had time for us. So I remember the day he was put on waivers a couple of years ago in Ottawa, and there was like complete shock in the locker room. One, he was an alternate captain at the time. And two, everybody loved Zach Smith. And so when that happened, I can remember going into the room that day and it was like, it was almost like a death or a funeral. Like it was just eerily quiet and everybody was kind of down. Like people go on waivers all the time. It's not that uncommon, right? So, but to see that, I'd never seen anything like it before when it came to waivers. And I remember, Matt Duchene was like, I think it was something along the quote of, feel like we just got kicked in the nuts. Like there was a real moment that team bonded together and they were completely upset that Zach Smith was placed on waivers. Later, he got traded for Artem Anisimov. But boy, that's a day that I'll always remember covering the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, exactly. He was super. Yeah, sorry to jump in there. We can come back to that part. He was just super laid back, right? I think that's why everybody got along with him so well. He was super chill, easy to get along with. And if you're watching on the YouTube version, when Wally was wishing him a happy birthday, we plugged in a lot of the fun stuff we did with him on Vine, and because we knew we could make fun of him, we knew he would be okay with it. He doesn't take himself seriously, and I think that's why a lot of guys really kind of gravitated towards him, and probably why the locker room was the way it was that day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well
said. I do miss Zach Smith and those chats we used to have, because we'd sit in the locker room and just shoot the shit for a bit. So Zach Smith, we stick tap to you today and wish you a very happy 33rd birthday. That'll do it for our show. Another extended version where we'll try and get it down sometime. We can figure out how to stop asking so many questions. If you like what we're doing, once again, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We appreciate all the subscribers and everybody following along. You can also catch us on Apple, Google, and Spotify podcasts. And as always, we'll see you again in a couple of days. Appreciate your time. Can I say it, Craig? Can I tell him who's the guest for show number 10?
Oh, yeah.
Show number 10. He's been requested over and over again. Probably the guy that's been requested the most outside of Daniel Alfredson. Chris Neal, number 25 for so many years. The Ottawa Senators will be our guest for show number 10. We will see you on Thursday. Take care, guys.
One thing I spotted, Matt, and I saw it when it happened live during the Boro interview, but your AirPod fell out.
Yeah. You see,
I got all that. And it's like you kind of just sitting there for a second and it's like,
and then I went
trying to decide when to do it. So we're going to fuck with that. Yeah.
Because he was, and please do. I don't care. But he was talking about something pretty serious. We were talking about like inclusivity or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
really funny.
okay, do I just like go like this?
I just see this.
I think in the episode I have it covered up, but at the end I'm gonna fucking tear it. We're gonna put little.
Okay.